There's the customary evening rabbit that is probably eating my vegetable starts. I can chase him around, but it won't do anything it won't help. It looks like this September is going to be one of the best months of the garden. It's looking beautiful out here. Come along and let me show you what's going on. So this is the pumpkin patch, official pumpkin patch. The pea vines were here, and so they're all old and dead, and I should take them down, but I've just left them to when I can get to them. I'm going to, there's really not very many pumpkins in here. There's one there, another one hanging down there. There's some along the back of this trellis. There's a couple hanging in here. That's kind of the back pathway behind the compost area to the street. You can see the pumpkin vine is coming up here and then working its way into the rose gate. I think the only other pumpkin that I've spotted in here, which I don't think would be ready by October, by Halloween, but maybe if I'm lucky by November it could be ready. That guy there. So I'll come in here and cut the corn stalks out of the way, trim some of the pumpkin leaves back, and that'll give me room to plant some more of the fall veggies. I need that room because I know I've got more fall veggies than I've got spaces for right now. Fall veggies sitting in seed trays. I think I'm gonna try to save the corn stalks. I like the look of them here, but they're just in the way. So I've harvested most of the corn in there, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut them to the ground and then take the long stalk and just kind of stack it somewhere where it can be used as decoration if I want. You can see here we've been doing some trimming of bushes, so the compost is full again in the middle area here. My helper today was complaining that whatever he threw on top was just sliding off, so I told him to go ahead and put it in this empty bin here for now, but I know this will just kind of collapse down, and then we'll move this over to there to keep this empty. So coming on here, this the street side, what I call the street side L bed here. We've got some nice roses that I like. Our flowers are finally coming out. This is the Moulin Rouge sunflower. There's some teddy bear sunflowers back there. This was the Mammoth Sunflower, but the head was already done for, so that's been trimmed off. The feverfew, which was here, if you go back and look at my videos from earlier in the spring, you'll see the feverfew along here. Been trying to keep it in a low bush habitat and hoping that it would flower around that low bush habitat, because it got really long and gangly and out of control a bit. But I don't think, I mean, this one did it. It'd be nice if I can get the other ones to do it. I had a sunflower failure. I have a feeling that rabbits may have eaten the tops of my sunflowers earlier on. So I've just got a couple of sunflowers in here. The dahlias, though, these dahlias are doing pretty nicely. These yellow dahlias have popped up and are doing nicely. Those were grown from seed this year. This is the Blackberry Patch here, and it hasn't had blackberries for a good month now, but it tends to produce all season, so you can see there's some things that are coming in here. So it looks like we'll get some blackberries. Some more dahlias. They're doing nicely in amongst the teddy bear sunflowers. Zinnias are still not there, and I finally have some Shasta Daisies. I've been trying to plant these the last couple of years and couldn't seem to get them in there. They're supposed to be a perennial, so grew these from seed, and they've finally blossomed here. Dahlias are really fun to have here. The other fun one that we have here is the straw flowers. The texture of them is fun, the look of them is fun. These have turned out to be a real winter fun part of the garden. As you can see here, the artichokes, I've deadheaded the artichokes essentially. They're there's some new foliage around there. There actually is some artichoke activity. These, before I talk about artichokes, these are sweet peas. I haven't been super successful in growing them, but these have turned out okay. They're just a white sweet pea there. But we got a couple of small artichokes there, another one there. Could harvest and eat those if we wanted to. Got one that's kind of really going there. So my artichoke alley is doing okay. This is my helper came in and was weeding and weeded the verbena, unfortunately. This is the one verbena that I have left. This is Alyssium. I believe it's called Oriental Night Alyssium. I like the color. I like it as it goes. It's I think it's an annual that seeds and then comes back because of the seeding activity. These, I'm not 100% sure what they are. I've grown in the past spider flower. I don't think that's what these are. They've done really well this year, but I lost track of what exactly they were. And maybe what I'll do is I'll take us around this way. So this is a patch of a bunch of random veggies. We've got tomatoes, celery, kale, some butternut squash in there. I think there's like a kabocha squash vine as well in this bed. This here is the black sesame. It's not ready yet. I've opened the pods and the sesame seeds inside are still white, so I'm assuming since it's black sesame, that means it's not ready yet. Some more beautiful straw flowers in here. This is the little fruit orchard. Got some very tasty apples on here. We only got about 5 or 6 apples in total this year, but it's about 3 years old, the trees, so I'm hoping that as they get older we'll be doing well. That you can see that most of the saucing tomatoes are like this. They're still green. There's some that have blossom end rot on the bottom. Let's just pull those off and throw them away. That's what I typically do. I won't do that here, but see, I've got lots of different tomatoes here. Again, different kinds of saucing tomatoes and a few different kinds of cherry tomatoes. There's a couple volunteers from last year's cherry tomatoes that are in here as well, that I definitely do not know the varieties of because I didn't plant them from seed. They popped up and I let them grow. I was like, wow, free food. May as well let them be. Come along here. This is what I call the hedge row here. It's one of my main flower borders, or it's one of the flower borders I've been working on for a while. For a while, I mean over multiple years. Mostly it's got some perennial stuff in here, the echinaceas and these dusty millers, but the asters are annuals that I put along this row every year. This is a currant tomato here. I like these. I mean, it's hard to harvest them and keep them, so I only grow a couple of these for snacking in the garden, essentially. And it's, I think this variety is called Candyland. I'll grow a red one like this, and then I'll usually grow a white currant one. Very tasty stuff, but these are the Chinese lanterns, and with the hot summer we've had, we're actually getting some turning orange. These are for decoration. I've had years where this grows and then I just never get the Chinese lantern in it. They are annual, but they self-seed, and so this plant grew itself back this year from prior years. You can see I've got a lot of well, I guess it depends on what you mean by a lot, but I have calendula, and the calendula also self-seeds every year, so I don't necessarily have to plant it from seed. I really like how bright it is, and this one self-seeded itself. It was originally in this pot and self-seeded itself out of the pot, so it's kind of sitting in my walkway, but it came on so strong and looked so good, I just like to keep it. Let me back up here because I passed some sun gold tomatoes. Well, these actually look like they're the orange Peruche, which is a even sweeter version kind of the sun gold. Here you can see how orange that is in there. It's very tasty. It's probably my favorite cherry tomato right there. I get the seed from Territorial Seed. I don't really have many cabbages left in the garden. I've got kale plants that are still here, but they're looking scraggly. They need to come back with the cooler weather that we're having now, and or my new kale plantings will do well. You can see here I'm planting out the fall garden. You can see that's a bunch of Shanghai bok choy that I put the little starts in this morning. So yeah, similarly to the pumpkin patch over here, I've got this patch that's got a bunch of sweet corn. I've harvested almost most of the sweet corn, but not all of it. I'm going to cut those stalks to the ground, cut back some of the winter squash leaves that are in that bed, and then that'll give me room for more fall plantings. This is Coreopsis. These are a couple of flower beds along here. We'll kind of move back this way just to orient you. You'll see kind of this is that side of the garden there. You move back this way so I can show you some of the flowers that I like here. So these are petunias. They're kind of one of the workhorses of the garden flowers that we put in that do really well. This is a flower that I like, which I feel grows like a petunia, but it has like, the way I would describe it is it's got a more like metallic sheen to the flowers. And these flowers happen to be purple, but when I grow them, they have different colors to them. Some of them are even more yellowish, and it's called Saplogosius. This is a red. I think it's called red Liberty Salvia. It's just flowered just in the last week here, so it's a perennial. Been growing it here but I planted it from seed here in the spring, been growing it all season, and it just finally flowered for me here. I'm gonna bring you along here. I haven't kept up with or trimmed or manicured these flower beds on my left and my right here, these flower borders that well, but what the intent was is along this, on the right hand side, was going to be this whole row of the kind of almost running it like a low hedge of Coleus. But what's happened, as you'll see here, is that the Coleus has grown very tall, and I think I could have grown it more like a hedge, a small low hedge, if I had pinched it out, caused it to bush out more instead of letting it just grow tall. But now we're at the end of August and I've let happen what happened. I guess I could probably still play with it to see what I can do between now and end of October. I think it'd probably survive that long. And see, this is a lilac tree. Blooms in the spring for a little bit and then it's done. Wonderful fragrance, but it's got a ton of suckers here. And as we get into here, we've got the monster Coleus that has just gone crazy here. All the nasturtiums this year, they're not flowering at this point, but you can see the leaves. They were all volunteers, just self-seeded from prior year. And here, these are the only cosmos that we had this year. I'll see if I can show you from the other side. and they are volunteers from last year. So I did try to grow some cosmos from seed, a lot of cosmos from seed, and the areas that I planted them intentionally, they did not take off. I tried planting them in some other areas. I wasn't sure about the light those areas had or not, and it apparently just wasn't good enough. But these orange cosmos volunteered this year and did well. And then on the other end of this bed, if you remember back on the far end, we had the red Liberty Salvia, and here we've got a blue salvia. Here we get to the end, and here around this tree here I've got my pansies are blooming well. But getting back to my love of the veggies, you can see what's going on in this trellis here in this bed. This is where I've got a lot of winter squash, and I've got some beans, and so the beans have grown to the top, and I've got a couple of good winter squash in there. Got some more winter squash down there, kabochas. We really like kabochas, so I'm trying to grow as many as I can. This is a back staging area, back nursery area, I would say overflow nursery area, and it's where these tubs are used to hold potting soil. When I buy it in bulk, I haven't done a bulk order of potting soil at this point, and now where we're at in the season, I won't do that until ready for spring again. The tops though of that are nice because the tops hold some water, so I can throw some trays in there, and those trays happen to have holes in the bottom, and fill the tops of those with water, and it works like a little water basin for plants, which is cool. This is a mega kale. I just didn't harvest anything off. I just wanted to see how far I could go with it, with just leaving it alone and letting it go, because I harvest kale. I usually harvest our kale so regularly that it can never really grow very big, and so I thought, well, let me let some kale just go to town here. And this bed, I just pulled some old lettuce and weeds out of it, so I can start tomorrow planting some more fall crops in here. That's a Midnight Roma tomato. I had a neighbor here gave it to us. It was a little bit late in the season. I had run out of room of where to put it, so I put it here at the last minute. So we'll see if, looks like I got one little one on there, but I did not do it justice this year. That's a Pinot grape that was just planted this year with the intent that I'll trellis it up this little old clothesline hanger there. This is the Horseshoe Flower Bed. It's got a lot of perennial stuff in there from prior owners of this property, and generally looks good, so we just need to weed it and keep it watered, and it'll do well for us. My only addition to it is that tree in the back, which is a plum tree that I took from a neighbor, or that a neighbor gave me, I should say. I didn't just take it. Curve around here. You can see the raspberries. Our raspberries are June bearing raspberries, so once we got out of the season, they were pretty much done. There's a rogue one in there, so maybe we have a stem or two that aren't exactly June bearing. I'm not sure, but we actually been doing a lot of trim work here this last couple of weeks, so this was just all overrun until about a week ago. We're in the back of the greenhouse here, so I'll come back around this way, and these are Tromboncino squashes, which I've let kind of grow into their winter squash habitat here, which is longer with a bigger squash with a hard kind of shell to it. But if you look over here, you can see the younger versions of the same squash, like we have here, have a soft outside. And so what's nice about these squash is that they can be harvested as a summer squash. Like if I harvest it right now, it'll be like a summer squash. It's got the soft outside, so it'll have a similar texture to a summer squash. Or I can leave it like I did over there and let it grow into a winter squash. Some more tomatoes in there. This in here, corn of course, but down in here is my one big blue Hubbard squash. Only one. More tomatoes. This looks again like another orange Peruche. My favorite. pot here has the Mexican torchflower, and I tried to grow. I actually grew like a half. I grew like from seedlings. I had about 24 starts of these. This is 2. The other 22 starts were put out in the garden and not very successfully and died. I really think I really think I don't know the extent of the rabbit damage, like, because plants just kind of disappear, and I attribute it sometimes to, oh, I didn't water it well and it just kind of died on me and I didn't pay attention or forgot where it was. But I think now, seeing all the rabbits that I have in the garden, that the truth is that they're disappearing, the plants, when I first put them out in many cases. This is our little mint garden over here. Try to keep it off the ground in pots, with pots situated on the bricks, because if mint gets away from you, and I've had it actually go through the bottom of a pot into the ground, and then you've got a disaster to deal with for years to come. This is my lemon tree. It flowered late July, but never really produced any lemons. Well, I see something. I see something there. Let's cross our fingers. But this lime tree over here, it did in fact produce limes. And those are all the fall veggie starts that are still yet to go in the ground. This is the one area that I've been successful with zinnias in the pots here. Got them in early enough. This is the orange, and it also has fruit that has yet to turn orange, but there's fruit. Well, in here in the greenhouse we've got jalapeno peppers, some bell peppers, some Jimmy Narndello peppers. Got some eggplants. The eggplants have not been very successful this year. And I've got a bunch of banana peppers. I do have quite a bit of banana peppers in here. There's an Armenian cucumber. The peppers did okay, but not spectacular. And the eggplants really didn't do very much. Melons, I got about 5-6 melons, which is about what I got last time, I think. So for the number of vines that I have, though, I should get more. I think the lack of success with the melons and the eggplants, and really the peppers, although I've gotten peppers, they should be a lot more fruit on them. I think it's just the heat, because, you know, we had those heat waves outside here in Portland, and well, let's face it, that if it's 100 degrees outside, it's hard to keep it less than 100 degrees inside here. And when it's 85 degrees outside, it's like 99 degrees in here, which is not good for any plant, even heat-loving plants. So I think the flowering and everything was stunted on these plants because of the high temperatures. I turn fans on, I wet the floors, I draw the shades, I do everything I can do, but the reality is that if it's actually going to be that hot outside, then I don't really need a hothouse to grow these vegetables. I could have grown these outside. But this is Portland, Oregon, so historically it's not that hot outside. I think it's an example of where I need to learn to be more flexible and dynamic and less dogmatic. We knew it was a hot summer already in June, but I didn't adjust. It's because I get a plan going and then I don't want to change the plan. But that's one of the things that gardening teaches me, reminds me that I've got to, like I said, be less dogmatic about things and just go with the flow, go with whatever's going on at the moment. These are, I believe these are Oregon sweetmeat squash. This plant here, it's a Wisteria. Yeah, this is a Wisteria. I was looking in nurseries all summer for it. It finally came in later in the summer, and I bought it after it had already passed its bloom. Wisteria grows vigorously. It's one of those kinds of plants they warn you about. The intent is to grow it up this trellis and across all the way, let the vine grow all the way across, and just kind of keep it going all the way across there, and then have the hanging flowers from it. We'll see if my plan works out. I know some of you are seeing my trellis and thinking, hey, you better reinforce that trellis, and I'm on it. I know that I just threw the trellis up this year to see kind of what would be strong enough for just at least one season. I threw it up in a way that'd just be strong enough for at least one season, just to see that it was going to be, that I liked the way the trellis looked. I liked the way the framing looked, the height and the spacing in the garden, with the intent that now that I like the way it looks, I can go back and I can make it a little more official. I can put some posts with concrete in the ground, put some other supports in, make that trellis last and be able to support that wisteria. Well, hey everyone, thanks for joining me in this garden tour today. I had fun walking around. This is just the north garden, but what I've realized is that the garden, there's too much to try to tour everything, so I'll do the different sections of the gardens with different tours at different times. And the reality is that this is where my heart is right now, is out here in the north garden. So it's the best part for me to show you all. Okay, I'll talk to you all later. Bye.